Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be about brumation and bearded dragons. So I'm going to talk about what it is and what to look for and what to do when your bearded dragon is brumating to help him have a successful brumation. So first off, brumation is basically the equivalent of hibernation in reptiles. It's not quite as dramatic as a hibernation is for mammals, or even a torpor, a deep sleep. So, but what it is a seasonal cooling down period where your bearded dragon may go off of food and he's going to start seeking out cooler spots in the enclosure. He'll start to avoid the basking site, and he's going to increase the amount that you find him sleeping. So, especially during the daylight hours. So, as with anything related to animals, you're going to find that every animal's different. So no two animals will brumate the same, and even the same animal may brumate differently year to year. The bearded dragons are going to brumate after their first year. So once they're 1 year old and they're coming into their first winter or fall, they're going to start, what they'll do is they'll go off of food usually first. They'll start slowly decreasing the amount of food that they're going to take in. And they're going to be increasing the amount of sleep that they do in the day. So right now it's about 5:30 and the sun's still out, and it's August 29th, I believe, 28th or 29th. So right now most of my lizards are pretty active, but I've noticed for the last couple weeks now Roxanne's been starting to slow down, and he's showing signs that he wants to brumate. So when Roxanne goes into a brumation, it varies every year. So the hardest brumation that he's ever gone through was 2 years ago. He went off of food for maybe, I think, 2.5 months, almost 3 months, where he wasn't eating any insects. During that time I was providing a lot of salads for him, and I think he ate a good amount of salad on occasion, but he wasn't eating as much as normal. So, and when they're not eating, they're not going to the bathroom. So he went that 2.5, 3 month period without eating insects or going to the bathroom, and that was a pretty heavy brumation. But he didn't lose any weight. So, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, because that's important. When your beardies brumating, you want to pay attention to their weight. Make sure they're not getting thinner. So every year, once your beardie reaches a year old, because they won't do it the first year most of the time, or they shouldn't do it their first year because they need to be growing in size that first year. So you're going to want to, if they do try to brumate, which they shouldn't, but if they do, you may have to take steps to prevent that, like maybe upping the temperature at night or during the day, depending. So, but with your 1 year old beardie, signs that you want to look for are their appetite's going to start decreasing, and it may be overnight, and it may be over the course of a few days or a few weeks, you'll just notice that they eat less and less, and their appetite is it's going to keep diminishing to the point where they might go off of food completely. So now brumation isn't as intense as a hibernation, so your lizards could be awake during the day and maybe even eating for you and being somewhat active, but sleeping half of the day. Or he might be completely out, not eating at all, sleeping all day. So it really depends. It's going to vary lizard by lizard. Roxanne usually goes into a pretty deep brumation when he's brumating, and it's been pretty predictable over the years when he's going to do it. You want to let him go into it naturally. You don't want to try to fight it or promote it, really. You just want to kind of let them choose when it's right for them. The purpose behind brumation is to get them ready for the breeding season. So to rest all their systems up, get them ready to go. But it also serves other functions, I think, with reptiles, and that I think it extends the life of the animal by giving them the natural brumating cycle, because it slows their systems down, their metabolism and everything's going to slow down. So, and during those periods, there's a lot less oxidation and damage going on with the cells and cellular reproduction. So, I have a theory that it does increase the life of the animal if you give them a proper brumating period. So now my other lizards haven't gone into a brumation yet, but Rocko's been slowing down a little bit, so I think he's like on the verge of going into kind of a mini brumation. But I have a feeling Roxanne's going to go into a real heavy brumation this year, and I'm going to let him too, just because he's had such a busy year with being lost outside for 3 months and then fathering 33 baby bearded dragons. So, but so they're going to start slowly weaning off, reducing the amount of food that they're eating. And they may get to the point where they're not eating anything at all. And in a perfect brumation, they're going to stop eating food, and then they'll go to the bathroom one last time. And they're going to shut down at that point. So it may be for a couple weeks, maybe for a couple months. But during this period, you're going to need to do some special things for your animal just to make sure that they're staying healthy. So they're not going to be eating a lot of food, but you still do want to provide the salads daily, just in case they do decide that they want to eat that day, or they need a little extra moisture from the greens. You want to be providing the salad still. Now, after I've noticed that they've with Roxanne here, he'll go off food and then he'll seek out cool spots within his enclosure, and I'll find him in there sleeping during the middle of the day, and he'll be doing that for the first couple weeks leading up to his to when he actually goes into the deep sleep. So when I see him seeking out these cool little refuges in his enclosure, like this one under the hammock here, and or like if they hiding away in a cave or something, you're gonna want to well, at this point you can reduce the amount of heat that's coming in, so you want to leave your UV lights on. But if you're using a separate heat source in conjunction with your UVB lights, you can turn the heat light off at this point, which in Roxanne's enclosure right now, I've got his heat light off, and the only light turned on right now is the Reptisun UVB fluorescent tube up on the top there. It's a 4-footer. So that's still on. You're going to want to leave the UV on. That way they're getting their UVB light still, even as they brumate. But they, since they're not eating and digesting as much food, then you're not going to need the heat requirements from the basking light. So you can just cut the basking lights right off. So that's my basking light right there. It's a mercury, 100-watt mercury vapor, and this is a my heater up here, ceramic heater on a Zilla thermostat. So at this point in the brumation, Roxanne, you won't really know when their last bathroom break is going to be. So you want to just keep checking every day to make sure whether or not they're going to the bathroom, and that's going to be a direct function of how much food they're eating. So if they're eating a lot of food, then you should expect that they're going to be going to the bathroom every day. But once they start reducing the intake of food, that period between times of going to the bathroom is going to increase. So you may not know when the last time is until till it's all said and done. You look back. So you want to just after they start seeking out these cool refuges, you've taken the heat light off for them. You want to still provide the 12 hours of light every day, and then give them the 12 hours of darkness at nighttime, and keep the temperature no lower than 75. You don't even during the day. If it does drop down, you might want to let it stay. Try to shoot for like 80s or maybe even 90s. But if it does drop down to 75, as long as your beardie isn't ingesting a lot of food where he needs the heat for digestion, you should be okay. So now there's been years where Roxanne's brumated for only a month, and then there's on the opposite side, there's been years he's brumated for 3 months. So when they're brumating, I like to increase the frequency of the baths, since they're not getting the water from the vegetation as much. Their digestive tract being slowed down, and the quantity of salads they're going to eat reduced. So you're going to want to increase the baths that you give them to, say, maybe 3 a week, 2 to 3 a week, and at a minimum, instead of 1 a week minimum. And that these numbers are for if you're only using the bath method to hydrate your bearded dragon. So if you're using a spray bottle method, I would say that it'd probably be recommended to still give them a bath every week, especially during brumations. So, and that also goes for periods when they're shedding or having stuck sheds or heavy sheds. You can always increase the frequency of the baths, and as long as the water doesn't get cold and they're not in there longer than 15 minutes, then you should have no issues with any health related problems. So you want to make sure that your beardie's still getting UV light during the brumation, and also getting the water requirements that he needs. So you're going to keep an eye on your bearded dragon's weight. And if you don't have a scale, you can just do this visually. You're just going to want to keep looking at him every day and see if he's getting thinner. And during a proper brumation, your bearded dragon shouldn't lose any weight. So if you do notice that your dragon is losing weight, then you may want to turn your lights back, your heat light back on, because he may actually not be brumating, and he's going to need that heat source back, and then also increase the amount of food. So, and there may be another issue beyond the brumation. So there may be an underlying health issue at that point. So it is important to be able to recognize a health issue versus normal brumation in bearded dragons, because that's going to determine for you, if you've got to act, so, or how to properly act, I should say. So, and with the brumation, there's a lot of unknowns. You never know going into it how long it's going to last or the intensity of it. So when they do start brumating, you just got to be ready for it and be ready for them. It does make the care requirements a lot easier, and you do save a lot of money on the feeding insects during these periods. So, but at the same time, it is very difficult for an owner, because your beardie's going to be sleeping a lot, and you're going to want to hang out and see his face, but you just know that this is, they need to do this. So this is essential for their health and their longevity. So, and I guess that's why I always recommend having more than one bearded dragon, just in case. Just in case one goes down brumating, you still got your other babies. So, as long as they're in separate enclosures, of course. So, let's see. I think I covered most of the important factors. Let's see here. So, if your bearded dragon starts losing weight, that it's not a brumation. Bearded dragons shouldn't ever lose weight at a rapid pace. Maybe you might see a little bit of weight fluctuations over periods of time, but if there's ever a period where you notice your dragon's losing weight, and especially if that's coupled with not eating and not going to the bathroom, then that definitely warrants a vet visit. So, and also, baby bearded dragons are not going to brumate. It's not going to be until their first year, going into their first cold season. So when they are brumating, you want to keep providing the UVB light, but you can cut the heat light off. You can shut that right down if you want. Just be absolutely sure that if your bearded dragon is consuming insect feeders and salad, you do want to make sure that that heat light is still provided, because depending on the degree of which your bearded dragon is brumating, he may only slightly be trying to slow his body down, and at that point he may still be eating 1 or 2 superworms every day, or a little bit of salad. So if your beardie isn't brumating where he's like sleeping all day like this, like Roxanne, then I would recommend leaving the heat light on, and then and just letting your lizard cool himself off if he needs to. So maybe you could raise the heat light up and say shoot for like a 95-degree basking site, and let your cool side drop down into the 80s. So I think that covers most of the important bases of brumation. Just remember, it's a normal process for your dragon, and it's healthy. So when you notice that your dragon starts brumating, you just want to help him out by providing the right environment for him. So maybe let it cool down, keep the salads going, decrease the number of feedings, and you do want to dust the salads with the calcium, especially if they're not eating insect feeders, just to make sure that they're getting their adequate supply of calcium. So, and then you just gotta wait, and usually it's at the long end, I would say maybe 3 months, and then at the very short end, it might just be a couple weeks. So, if you guys have any questions on brumation, make sure to leave them in the comment section down below, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. So, appreciate all your guys' support and liking all my videos and sharing. So, thanks for watching, everybody. Until next time, bye.